This is the Washington Times front page for Monday, June 22nd, 2026. Thanks for starting your week with us. I'm George Gerbo. Vice President J.D. Vance is attempting to broker a lasting peace agreement with Iranian officials during high-stakes talks in Switzerland. Jeff Murdoch reports Vance said he hoped the U.S. and Iran could turn over a new leaf and suggested they could build out a ceasefire into a long-term solution to Iran's nuclear ambitions. He said Iran has agreed to allow inspectors from the United Nations Nuclear Watchdog Agency to inspect its nuclear sites, calling the move part of a good foundation for a successful final deal. Still, the talks in Switzerland, brokered by representatives from Pakistan and Qatar, kicked off on shaky ground. The Iranian military announced Saturday it had closed the Strait of Hormuz because of continued Israeli strikes in Lebanon against Hezbollah, an Iran-backed Islamist militant group. Iran said the U.S. failure to rein in Israel violated the terms of the tentative ceasefire, which stipulates that all fighting in Lebanon must end. Congress is expected to pass legislation this week designed to increase housing supply and lower the cost of home ownership. Lindsay McPherson reports the bipartisan 21st Century Road to Housing Act seeks to remove and streamline government regulations that have driven up the cost of home construction. The Senate will vote on final passage of the bill Monday, and the House is expected to follow suit later in the week. New market rate construction prices are out of reach for most low and moderate income families, according to the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies. The group found that unsold inventories grew in 2025, prompting builders to cut prices and pivot toward more cost-efficient homes and lots. A National Association of Home Builders study released this month found regulatory costs accounted for 26.4% of the final price of a new single-family home, up 2.6 percentage points since 2021. The venture capital industry is funneling a record amount of private capital into American defense technology startups. John Seward reports public and private defense technology companies such as Anduril, Palantir, and Shield AI have raised more than $14.6 billion in private investment so far this year, according to Crunchbase, which tracks private and public companies. It's a notable uptick from the $9.6 billion raised in 2025 and a surge from the $1.6 billion secured by the sector in 2020. The shift has dramatically accelerated since the start of the Trump administration, fueled by public calls from the Pentagon and government for more venture capital and investment in new technologies. California voters will decide in November the fate of an economic inequality proposal called the Billionaires Tax Act. Susan Ferricchio reports the ballot initiative will ask Californians whether to impose a one-time 5% levy on taxpayers and trusts with assets exceeding $1 billion. The money would be used mostly to fund the state's Medicaid program, which proponents say has been hurt by federal cuts and is poised to lose $19 billion in annual federal funding. A smaller portion of the funds would be dedicated to public education. More than 900,000 voters are estimated to have signed the petition to get the tax on the ballot, signaling mounting public frustration over the wealth gap as everyday Americans struggle against inflation. And finally, Ian Roberts, who deceived multiple school systems into hiring him as an administrator, has been removed from voter rolls in Maryland. Stephen Dining reports Roberts was removed June 2nd, days after he was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for gun possession and lying about his citizenship to secure a superintendent position in Iowa. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers arrested Roberts, a citizen of Guyana, on September 26th in Iowa, where he was serving as superintendent of schools in Des Moines. He obtained that job by lying about his legal status. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.